We've had a couple of beauties, a couple of belters, and everything in between in a jam-packed round 5, including why we still need clarification over new rules over a month into the game. This is Daz Talks Footy. I'm Daz, and welcome to the round 5 review. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I would really appreciate that. Trying to get to the 1,000 mark by grand final day. I'm confident that we can do it together. I hope you've had a fantastic weekend. We go over 1 point from every game that needs to be talked about. I update you on the Brownlow leaderboard. It's a bit of fun. Great analysis. Let's do it. So when we talk about All-Australian, the wingmen and the half-forwards, it's got to be said, are the ones that are the most disrespected. However, Kane Cornes and Nathan Buckley have both gone on record to say that they want these guys in their proper positions. And 2022 is offering up a smorgasbord of wingmen. Now, outside of this game, Ed Langdon's been outstanding. Isaac Smith is off to a fantastic start. But the Gabba brought about two of the most informed wingmen in the game. Josh Dacos's first half was outstanding, and the amount of unrewarded running that he went through on Thursday night was simply extraordinary. Still finished with 22 touches. I don't have the kilometres that he ran on the night, but it would be immense. And he is having, can you call it a breakout year when he's kind of already had one? A re-breakout year, if you will. But he's off to an extremely good start. It's good to see him in such a good mindset. But Hugh McCluggage is the other one. 27 disposals. One of the best, if not the, on the park on Thursday night. He is so silky skilled, and considering he is now back to a, I'm going to say 80% outside role, even though he can win contested ball, there is a spot on that All-Australian wing that could have his absolute name on it after round 5, and it should. This game, whilst it wasn't perfect, was a real joy to watch on Thursday night. Both teams ran themselves into the ground, and by the time it was done, Dacos and McCluggage were still going right to the end. This was a corker. 16 Bulldogs players had 15 or more disposals in this game. Of the 7 that didn't get there, 2 of them, in Naughton and Waitman, kicked 5. That is the epitome of a team effort. And North were insipid, and that Sydney effort that they brought wasn't quite there. It was pretty suspected that they weren't going to bring all of that, but for the Dogs, they get a good percentage boost. If anyone was out of form, they're now in form. Tim O'Brien, as a Hawthorn fan, is now frustrating Dogs fans, so there's that. But overall, the Dogs are going to get, a bit out of this, play each other into form, but I think they got to fine-tune how they want to act a bit more behind the ball. So whilst people just look at this as a throwaway percentage booster, it wouldn't surprise me if the Dogs took some of their defensive techniques, such as playing a bit more front shoulder, especially when the Dogs have got the ball, and reverting to back shoulder once the turnover happens and another team is coming the other way. They're going to take that into the future, and that's a good sign. The Dogs, I'm not counting them out of any kind of finals race or anything, because they've got such a good run of games coming. They'll start favourites in their next 6, it looks like. So they're going to be away. Just a final note before we move on. North Melbourne should have Good Friday. We gave Richmond Carlton 10 years, and that's not that good. I think something that needs to be talked about more is why the next game, Sydney and West Coast, was the first time 2 non-Victorian teams played on a Friday night since round 2, 2019. Well, that and the showdown. So twice this year for the first time in 3 years. So what are the Swans is kind of the question, the talking point here, because they're better than they were against North, but they're not going to be able to play as well as they did against the Eagles, against much more opposition. So what are they? Well, they're kind of in the middle. Now, I think they're closer to the Eagles form than the North form. Absolutely. And whilst I still put them in the contender category, I can't see them as a premiership team just yet, but all the steps are in place to get there. Justin McInerney is one of those guys that outside of Sydney, not many would have noticed, but coming into this year and the way that he's played has been outstanding. Heaney, Mills, Parker, these guys are churning out good results, and it was good to see Logan McDonald in, I think, his first game in WA, launch an absolute bomb from 55 out. For the Eagles, just play for draft picks at this point. They haven't had a top 10 pick since Andrew Gaff, and even their 5 picks this decade in the teens, haven't been great. Now, Daniel Venables, that's his own issue with concussion, so you can't call that a bust. That is the epitome of unlucky. Jared Brander is currently at another club, and I think Liam Duggan is one, who is a fine player, but it hasn't been good. So list management needs an upheaval because you're going to have a good bounty in this draft, hopefully, and fingers crossed they can use it to the best of their ability. But for the Eagles, figure out who can play, who can't, and go from there. And for the Swannies, take the win, fly back home, go again. One king played, one didn't, and although Max wasn't the deciding factor in this game, it's what Ben would bring to the Suns that would have made this game uber close. The Saints had more polish on the outside, absolutely, but the Suns did look threatening when they went forward, but the stark gap between Casbolt, Chol, and then of course Ben King was what it was. I think the Suns, they can't use it as an excuse, this loss, because it's a game they definitely could have won coming in, but Ben King re-signing was the best thing for that footy club, and although he's not going to be out there this year, they need to do everything they can to keep him, because this club's future without him in it is a decent enough midfield, a more solidified back six by the week, but they can't score, and it's a massive problem. And shout out to St Kilda, the way that the first half went for big parts of it, they could have let this one slip, and previous St Kilda teams might have. They didn't on this occasion, and I think it's a better win than they're getting a little bit of credit for, but seeing Jade, Gresham and Brad Crouch in career best form should really excite Saints fans, and how good has Jack Higgins been since the Freo game? Adelaide might be the best 2 and 3 team in it, and the reason why I say best is because they have had so many chances to go 4-1. They lost to Freo by a point, they lost to Essendon by 3 points. Even if you win one of those, you go 3-2 and you're on your way. I think Adelaide fans have got a lot to be excited about at the moment. And as much as we want to talk about the trio up forward with Lockie Gallant, Taylor Walker and Elliot Himmelberg, it's actually the tall backs that kind of need some credit here. Jordan Butts is getting better and better every time he goes out on the park. And Billy Frampton, for all the criticism that I've given to him in the past, looks really sure of himself down back and will continue to improve. Sure, there'll be some teething problems, but my goodness me, they look really good. Darcy Fogarty, I think, is in some big trouble. And also a shout out to Rory Sloane, an ACL injury. We might have seen the last of him. It would be a heartbreaking way to go out. But this man has been everything that the Adelaide Football Club want to be in themselves. What a star he's been on and off the field. And considering all that he's been through for the career that he's had, is a genuinely outstanding job. For the Tigers, I told you they would overreact. The dynasty's done when they lose. The dynasty's still on when they win. I think Richmond are just a footy club that their ceiling is 8th. And I think that's where they're at. They got a good draft last year. They should get as many draft picks for this year as they can. And once the older guys start filtering out, get the young kids in and go again. Rebuilding on the fly is something that's going to sound weird to the Tigers, but what you don't want to do is be like Hawthorn after 2016, which is gamble it all to try and go again and have it to fail. Know where you're at and go from there, and I think Richmond are doing that, but all the credit and all the love should go to the Crows. They were outstanding for massive parts of this game. There ain't a premiership hangover here, let me tell you. They're as sober as they come, the Demons, and that third quarter was simply extraordinary. Leon Cameron's job looks like it's in trouble. Now, I'm not as big a Leon Cameron fan as a lot in the mainstream media seem to be, but there's not really a lot they could have done here. They still need so much help forward of the ball. Jeremy Cameron was, of course, a massive loss that they haven't been able to fill yet. But I think the thing with the Giants is they've got good top-end talent. Really good top-end talent. When Toby Green comes back, you got Josh Kelly, Tim Taranto, Stephen Canelio. These guys, Tom Green's come on this year in a massive way. So you look at these guys and they go, yeah, their top end looks really good. Sam Taylor's been good down back and I think is going to develop into a really good full back. But their bottom dozen, it's not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough. And that bottom rung of players is how blokes lose their job. And right now, Leon could absolutely lose his job at the end of the year. And for the Demons, it's them and daylight. Between 2nd, 3rd and 4th, you can debate whether it's Geelong, whether it's Brisbane, whether Sydney is smoky. Good luck to you. No one's getting near Melbourne for the foreseeable future. They've had 2 ultimate get-out-of-jail free cards, the Blues, and they're not getting another one. In their last 2 second halves at the MCG against Hawthorn and Port Adelaide, they are minus 75 points combined. If you do that against good teams, you're getting nowhere. Now, you got to take them and run. An ugly win is a lot better than an ugly loss. Ask Port Adelaide. But Carlton need to ask themselves why they don't have not only the leadership, but the maturity to slow the game down for big periods. It's not necessarily just chipping the ball around, but kicking towards boundary lines, making contests, neutralising the ball and not letting yourself get killed on transition and turnover. I love the fact that they go from it from a halfback point of view, but you don't need guys like Adam Saad taking 6 bounces when you're 50 points up and trying to manufacture something. You've already manufactured a lead. You can hold on to the lead for just a little bit when the other team gets a run on. Now, Port Adelaide, in effect, probably should have won the game. Robbie Gray did not take his chances at the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth. Carlton, you should still get a lot out of this. Your last 2 first halves at the MCG have been scintillating, and it's going to be a lot better for them to be able to pull it back than it is to try and find something that they don't have. But still, you don't want to get to a final, a team's coming back against you, and you've used all the petrol tickets by round 5. So a good win, a touch of concern, but footy's always better when Carlton are doing well, whether you love them or you hate them. Before the Essendon fans comment, no Stringer, no Merritt, no McDonald, Tip and Woody, calm down, Daz. At the coalface, they're okay. Parrish is doing a really, really good job of carrying that midfield, and I know Dylan Shields got a lot of clearances in the last 2 weeks, but the bloke can't kick. He's a left footer that kicks it like a right footer, and he doesn't have a right foot. So what are they doing? Peter Wright is their only forward who looks threatening. Their set shot goal kicking is pretty poor. And this isn't like a Bombers are going to win the wooden spoon or anything like that. They could easily come out and win 8, 9, 10 games for the year. But this whole Essendon winning a final thing, although it is the best meme in footy, is going to continue. This is not a team that is anywhere near competing in September. It's not going to be an easy fix, but I will say something nice about the Bombers. Ben Hobbs was ultra comfortable at the level. I hope he stays in for every week until Merritt comes back, and he can go from there. But they look like they lack leadership, maturity, game sense. They're miles behind it, and I'm worried for the Bombers. And for the Dockers, Matt Taberner was outstanding, and their core is as good, if not better, than Sydney's. Now, I personally think that Sydney's is a touch better. But Freo, for the next 3 to 4 years, are going to be the most fun team to watch in the competition. And also, don't forget, they've got top draft pick Jai Miss, who is a tall forward, developing in the 2s as well. So, if you're a Freo fan, the lid's off. Get excited. This was extraordinary. This is going to be one of the best Rising Star races probably ever. We've got Nick Dacos, Josh Rochelle, Jason Horne-Francis, Nick Martin, and I'm sure we're going to see others, maybe an Elijah Hollands down the line. Maybe Sam DeConning from Geelong might pop, and he might earn himself a nomination, and we've got a smattering of other players. But whilst we're all chasing the best highlight reel to get the Rising Star out, Hawthorn's pick 7 in Josh Ward and pick 26 in Connor McDonald, I think you're going under the radar. And yes, I am a Hawks fan, so if you think this is biased, good luck to you. But these guys are coming in off 7 NAB League games in 2 years, earned their spot in the best 22, and not only that, are given jobs and going with it. Josh Ward, in every single quarter on the weekend, led the Hawks for clearances, and that is with Mitchell having 33 touches, Newcomb having 31. By three-quarter time, Ward led the Hawks in clearances. That is outstanding from a youngster. I think Mitchell might have got him in the end, but he was outstanding. Makes good decisions, and sure, is he the best ball user in the world? Potentially not, but his gut running, his long kicking, this kid is going to be around for 200 games. I love the look of him, and when he gets that maturity and better decision-making into his game, and that's going to happen like in the next couple of months. I'm not waiting around for years here. He's going to be something special long-term for the Hawks, and Connor McDonald, who's essentially been a half-forward flanker all year, he can shirk a little when he's standing under the footy, but he's a light-framed guy. He hasn't had a whole lot of footy in the last couple of years, so if you'll excuse him for that, good luck to you, but ball in hand, he's becoming more and more damaging the more he uses the ball. Now, he had a genuine shank inside 50 in the third quarter, which kind of got Geelong's momentum going. But if you're going to rag these guys for one disposal, you're not having any fun watching the game. His last quarter was spectacular. Ned Long is averaging 8 tackles in the VFL and looks close to a debut. Sam Butler and Jai Serong are developing at Box Hill, and we'll probably see them in the last third of the year. Sure, is this draft class standing out so much at the moment? Potentially not. But the fact that no one's talking about Ward and McDonald for me is a damn shame. And as a Hawthorn fan, this was one of the best wins since the 2015 grand final for me. I was shaking. The poor missus, she didn't know what to think. I think I might have scared her a little bit with how much I was yelling. But what a win. What a game. What a draft class. This had to come up. I'm not an umpire basher by any means, but we're at round 5, and all of a sudden, we don't know what the abuse rule is. Now, for the first month of the season, we as fans all thought, okay, you can't turn and yell derogatory language at the umpires anymore. Now, that seems fair. Whether we're 6,000 umpires short or not, no one's ever gone to the umpire, you got that decision wrong, you fucking wanker, and the umpire's gone, you know what, sir? You're 100% correct. Here, you have the football. Hasn't worked. Let's get it out of the game. If we're talking so much about mental health of players, let's do it for umpires as well. I'm 100% an advocate for that, so don't do it. Awesome. When the hell did arms out become a 50-metre penalty, and why was Harris Andrews, Tom Mitchell, Jack Gunston, and I think George Hewitt got it once as well? Why were they the only ones in a weekend where there were 30 of them? Now, is arms out really a 50? Okay, let's say it is. Why was that not clear in the preseason in the first few rounds? And if it's not, and it's in the bubble of abuse, why? Is it what's being said when the arms are being thrown out? That would be a good question. But when Harris Andrews is told arms out is 50, that instantly tells me that that's the action and not what he said. Throwing your arms out, players need to be frustrated. We can't have robots. Now, if you want to fine players or suspend them for swearing at umpires, calling them this and that, absolutely do it. We have no right to abuse anyone that loves this sport as much as umpires do. You need to love the sport in order to do it, especially since they are not full-time yet and don't get full-time training, which, by the way, is probably the stupidest thing about this sport. But if arms out is a 50, we are telling our players to not feel anything as the game goes on. And players are simply not going to abide by that because we're human. Fans go off their nut. These are players. We're not getting paid to play this game. They're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. They're emotional. They care. They have emotional investment. There needs to be just a tightening up of the clarification. Don't throw your words around. I'm happy with that. Throwing your arms out in frustration, surely that needs to be okay, doesn't it? So here are the votes. Hugh McCluggage, he did a fantastic job to pick up the 3. Couple of pies doing well there as well. Bailey Smith and Jackson Macrae within half a point of each other. So who would you give the 3 votes to? If it was up to me, I'd probably would give it to Bailey Smith, but Macrae eked him out by just a touch. The joy of kicking goals, maybe. Baz Lenkar did kick a couple of points. For the Saints, all 4 of these guys had a gap of 2.5 points. So who would you give your 3-2-1 to? But that is how it ended up. I hope they do honour Jack Higgins. Yes, he did score a couple of goals out the back, but work rate is important. And to kick 5 is an extraordinary effort for the Crows. Ben Keays, 2 votes, always done the job. Taylor Walker kicked the bag. He got the 3. Dion Prestia was the best for the Tigers. For the D's, Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver. You know, big win. That's just the trio that we always talk about, and rightly so, I understand. For the Blues, Charlie Curnow gets the 3 after kicking a handful. Sam Walsh is on the leaderboard for the first time in 2022. Things you love to see, that is definitely one of them. For the Dockers, Matt Taberner and Andy Brayshaw, they ripped the Bombers apart in 2 different parts of the ground. And good to see Caleb Serong getting amongst the footy as well. Had a bit of a slow start, couple of injuries as well. So good to see that he is doing well. And for the Hawks, Tom Mitchell did take out the 3 votes, but I wouldn't begrudge James Sicily or even John Newcomb getting the 3 votes. They were all outstanding. Joel Selwood, the best for the Cats. So there's the leaderboard. Cripper on 9, Brayshaw and Keays, Big Benny Keays on 8. Hasn't he been extraordinary this year? Oliver and Petrarca on 7. That will make the Demon fans happy. And funnily enough, Max Gawn is on 6.5. As we speak. He is also there with Isaac Heaney and Jackson Macrae down there on 6.5, just off the leaderboard. And of course, Lachie Neale keeps doing what Lachie Neale does. Who do you think is leading the Brownlow at this point in time? Who do you think is going to end up taking Charlie home? Comment below, let me know. It's been a joy to talk to you guys. I'll see you for the Supercoach and the tips videos that will be coming throughout the week. Have a fantastic one. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.